My name's Tom Carver, and I've been a father longer than I've been anything else. My daughter Mia turned 13 last month, and she's the heartbeat of my life. She was born with a rare lung condition called congenital diaphragmatic hernia. Mouthful, I know, but it means her diaphragm didn't form right, leaving her lungs underdeveloped. She's been on a ventilator since she was a baby. Its rhythmic hum, a constant in our home. That sound, to me, is life itself, me's life. I'm the city's lead power inspector, a job I've held for 15 years, but I keep that part of me quiet in Cedar Ridge, the suburban neighborhood we moved to 3 years ago. I wanted a fresh start after my divorce, a safe place for Mia to grow up, away from the chaos of the city. Cedar Ridge seemed perfect: tree-lined streets, tidy lawns, kids riding bikes at dusk. But I didn't count on Karen Holt. Karen was the HOA president. A wiry woman in her late 40s with a tight bun of brown hair streaked with gray, always pulled back so severely it looked painful. She had sharp features, a pointed nose, thin lips that rarely smiled and carried a clipboard like it was a scepter. She ruled Cedar Ridge with an iron fist, her obsession with rules suffocating the neighborhood. Grass couldn't be more than 2 inches tall. Trash bins had to be hidden by 6 p.m. And God help you if your mailbox wasn't the approved shade of beige. From the moment Mia and I moved in, Karen had it out for us. Maybe it was the wheelchair ramp I built for Mia, painted blue because it's her favorite color. Unapproved shade, Karen had barked, scribbling on her clipboard. Maybe it was the soft beep of Mia's ventilator, which Karen claimed disturbed the peace. I'd bite my tongue, pay her fines, and make adjustments, always telling myself it was for Mia's sake. She needed calm, not conflict. But Karen's resentment wasn't going anywhere, was growing, festering like a weed I couldn't pull. We'd moved to Cedar Ridge after my ex-wife, Sarah, left. The divorce was messy, drawn out over a year of arguments about Mia's care. Sarah couldn't handle the constant hospital visits, the sleepless nights when Mia's breathing faltered. She walked away, and I haven't heard from her since. It's just been me and Mia, figuring it out together. I modified our little ranch-style house at 142 Oak Lane to fit her needs-wide doors for her wheelchair. A ramp out front, a backup generator in the garage for power outages. The ventilator can't stop, not even for a minute. I'd learned that the hard way during a storm 5 years ago, when a blackout left me manually pumping air into Mia's lungs for 3 hours until power came back. That's why I got the generator, why I triple-check everything. My job as a power inspector taught me to be meticulous. I've spent years tracing outages, inspecting grids, ensuring hospitals and schools never go dark. But in Cedar Ridge, I was just Tom, the single dad with the sick kid, trying to keep my head down. The neighbors were kind at first. Mrs. Patel, a sweet widow in her 70s, lived next door and would bring over samosas, her hands trembling as she smiled at me. "Such a brave girl," she'd say, patting Mia's hand. The Wilsons across the street had a son, Jake, who'd sometimes come over to show Mia his comic books. She couldn't speak easily. Her condition made her voice weak, but she'd type on her tablet, a device that let her communicate with a robotic voice. "Cool Superman," she'd make it say, and Jake would grin. But Karen's shadow loomed over everything. She'd yell at kids for playing too close to our house, claiming they were trespassing. She'd find Mrs. Patel for her wind chimes, calling them a noise violation. Slowly, the neighborhood grew tense, quieter. People stopped coming by as often, afraid of Karen's wrath. Mia noticed. One evening, as I tucked her into bed, the ventilator humming softly, she typed, "Why she hate me, Daddy?" Her big brown eyes searched mine, her face pale under the glow of her nightlight. I swallowed hard, brushing her dark curls back. "She doesn't hate you, sweetheart," I said, forcing a smile. "Some people just don't understand." "You're perfect too." Me? But inside, my chest burned. I hated lying to her. Hated that Karen's cruelty was dimming her light. Karen's harassment started small, but grew like a storm cloud. She'd send letters about the generator, claiming its faint hum was disruptive. I'd explain it was for Mia's ventilator, but she'd scoff. "Rules are rules, Tom. She'll fine me $50 for the ramp's paint. Another $100 for clutter when Mia's nurse left a medical bag on the porch for 10 minutes. Once, she caught sight of the medical van parked in our driveway, necessity for Mia's weekly checkups, and marched over, her clipboard clutched tight. "This is an eyesore," she snapped, her voice shrill. "It lowers property values." I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, my patience thinning. "It's for Mia's doctor visits, Karen. She needs it." Her lips pursed, and she scribbled something down, muttering, "We'll see about that." I paid the fine another $75, but the weight of her constant attacks was starting to crush me. I overheard her once, talking to Mrs. Ellis down the street. "They think they're special because of that girl's machine," Karen said, her tone venomous. "It's always excuses with them." Special. Mia wasn't special to Karen. She was a problem, a blemish on her perfect Cedar Ridge. I wanted to storm over, tell her off, but I didn't. I dealt with enough high-stakes situations at work power failures during blizzards, grid overloads threatening entire neighborhoods. I knew how to stay calm, how to think 3 steps ahead. Karen was a bully, not a crisis. I figured she'd burn herself out eventually, but I was wrong. Bullies don't stop when they sense weakness, and to Karen, Mia's fragility was an invitation. It was a humid Tuesday evening in July, the kind where the air feels heavy, pressing against your skin. Cedar Ridge was quiet, the sun dipping low, casting long shadows across the street. Mia was in her room, her sanctuary, with its pastel walls and stuffed animals lining the shelves. She was watching cartoons, her ventilator humming steadily beside. Her bed, I'd set up a small TV for her, something to keep her spirits up on days when she couldn't go outside. Her condition made her tire easily, and the summer heat didn't help. I was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of chicken noodle soup, her favorite, when the lights flickered. Just a brief stutter, but my heart skipped. Then, everything went dark. The ventilator's hum stopped, replaced by an eerie silence that felt like a punch to the gut. I dropped the ladle, the clatter echoing as I sprinted to Mia's room. She was in her wheelchair, her small chest heaving, her face pale, her hands clutching the sheets. Her ventilator screen was blank, the power cut. I checked the backup, battery dead. I'd meant to replace it last week, but got swamped with work. Panic clawed at me, but I shoved it down. "Hang on, baby," I shouted, grabbing the manual pump from her bedside table. It was a handheld device, a last resort, meant to keep air flowing until help arrived. I started squeezing, my arms burning with each pump. My eyes locked on Mia's. Her breathing was shallow, her lips tinged blue. You're okay," I chanted, more for myself than her. Her nurse, Emily, burst in. She'd been in the bathroom when it happened. "I've got it," she said, taking the pump from me, her hands steady as she kept the rhythm. I stumbled outside, my heart pounding, and that's when I saw her. Karen Holt, standing by our power box at the edge of the yard, a pair of wire cutters in her hand. The box's door hung open, wires severed, dangling like broken veins. She turned to me, her face flushed with sweat, and smirked. "That noise is gone now," she said, her voice triumphant. "You're welcome." The street was silent, but I felt eyes on us neighbors peeking from windows. Watching the scene unfold, Mrs. Patel stood on her porch, her phone raised, recording. Mr. Wilson was out front, his jaw dropped. My blood boiled, a rage I'd never felt before surging through me. But I kept my voice low. Dangerous. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my city idealed power inspector and held it up, the badge catching the fading sunlight. "Karen Holt," I said, each word like ice. "You just cut power to a life-sustaining medical device." "I'm a city's lead inspector. You're done." Her smirk vanished. Her face went pale, the wire cutters slipping from her hand and clattering to the ground. She opened her mouth, but no words came out at first. Then, a stammer. I didn't know. It was just a rule." The neighbors' whispers grew louder, a mix of shock and anger. Mrs. Patel called out, "You're a monster." Mr. Wilson shook his head, muttering, "She's gone too far." Karen took a step back, her eyes darting, looking for an escape. But there was none. I turned back to the house, my priority, Mia. Emily was still pumping, her face grim but focused. "She's stabilizing," she said, "but we need power now." I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. "Medical emergency at 142 Oak Lane," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "Child on a ventilator, power tampered with." Then I called my team at the power department. "Emergency at my address," I told my deputy. "Mark. Box tampered, wires cut. Bring a crew now." Paramedics arrived in under 10 minutes, their sirens slicing through the quiet. They rushed in with a portable ventilator, hooking me up as I stood by, my hands trembling. Her color started to return, her breathing easing. She gripped my hand, her small fingers cold but strong. "You're okay, princess," I whispered, kissing her forehead. Her eyes met mine, and she gave a tiny nod, her way of saying she trusted me. Outside, my crew arrived, Mark and 2 linemen, their truck idling. As they assessed the damage, "Clean cuts," Mark said, shaking his head. This wasn't an accident. Police followed, 2 officers stepping out of their cruiser. I pointed at Karen, who was now sitting on her lawn, looking small and defeated. "She did it," I said, handing over my ID, "tampering with a utility, endangering a child." The officers approached her, and I heard the click of cuffs as they read her rights. Mrs. Patel handed me her phone. "I got it all," she said, her voice shaking. "She can't deny it." I glanced at the video, Karen snipping the wires, her smug declaration echoing, "That noise is gone now." I stayed with Mia as the paramedics monitored her. They wanted to take her to the hospital for observation, but her vitals were stable, and Emily assured them she could handle overnight care. "She's a fighter," Emily said, giving me a small smile. I nodded, my throat tight. "Always has been." Once the medics left, I sat by Mia's bed, holding her hand as she drifted to sleep, the new ventilator humming softly. But I couldn't rest. Karen had crossed a line, and this wasn't just about us anymore. She'd terrorized Cedar Ridge for years, and I'd been too passive, too focused on keeping the peace. That ended now. The next morning, I called the HOA board, demanding an emergency meeting. They agreed, scheduling it for that evening at the community center. Word spread fast. Cedar Ridge was buzzing with the news. I spent the day with Mia, keeping her calm, playing her favorite board game, Candyland. She typed on her tablet, scared last night. I hugged her close, my heart aching. "I know, baby, but I've got you." She's gone now. Her smile was small but real, and it fueled me for what came next. The community center was packed that evening. Every chair taken, people standing along the walls. The air was thick with tension, whispers rippling through the crowd. I walked in, not as the quiet dad who'd kept to himself, but as the lead power inspector, my badge clipped to my belt, a folder of evidence in my hand. Mia stayed home with Emily. I didn't want her here for this. The HOA board, 3 men in ill-fitting suits sat at a table in front, looking nervous. Karen was there, out on bail, sitting in the front row, her arms crossed, her face defiant. She thought she could talk her way out of this. She was wrong. I stepped to the front, my boots echoing on the hardwood floor. My daughter Mia, almost, died last night, I started, my voice steady but heavy with emotion. The room went silent. I held up my phone and played Mrs. Patel's video, projecting it onto a screen. Karen's face appeared, wire cutters in hand, her voice smug. That noise is gone now. Gasps filled the room. A woman in the back covered her mouth, tears in her eyes. I showed photos next marked shots of the severed wires, the ventilator's log proving Mia's dependence on it. She knew what she was doing, I said, pointing at Karen. She's been targeting us for years, fines, complaints, harassment. But this wasn't just about rules, this was personal. I handed the board a stack of papers, every fine Karen had issued us, every letter about the ramp, the generator, the van. She called my daughter's ventilator a disturbance. I said, my voice rising despite myself. Mia can't breathe without it. She's 13. She's never hurt anyone. And Karen tried to take her from me. My hands shook, but I kept going. This isn't just about us. She's bullied this whole neighborhood. I turned to the crowd. Who else has a story? Mrs. Patel stood first, her voice trembling. But loud. She fined me $200 for my wind chimes, she said. Said they were too loud. They were a gift from my late husband. Mr. Wilson spoke next, his face red. She yelled at my son for riding his bike, called him a delinquent. He's 9. A young mom stood, her voice cracking. She'll find us for our daughter's lemonade stand. Said it was unauthorized commerce. We were raising money for charity. More voices joined in. A wave of anger and relief. Years of resentment pouring out. The board shifted uncomfortably, their faces pale. They'd let Karen run rampant for too long. I faced them, my badge catching the light. Karen Holt endangered a child's life, I said. She's not fit to lead this HOA. She needs to go, and you need to overhaul this system. The crowd erupted in applause, some shouting, "Get her out!" Karen tried to speak, her voice shrill. This is unfair. I was enforcing rules, but no one listened. The board whispered among themselves. Then the chairman, a balding man named Greg, stood. We vote to remove Karen Holt from the HOA board, effective immediately, he said, his voice small. The room cheered, after the loudest cheers coming from the back. Karen slumped in her seat, her power stripped away. I didn't smile. This wasn't about winning. It was about Mia, about justice. Karen's legal troubles came fast. The police had her on felony endangerment, vandalism, and reckless conduct. I worked with the DA, providing every piece of evidence, the video, the photos, the ventilator logs. The trial was set for a month later, and Cedar Ridge showed up in force. The courthouse was packed, neighbors, reporters, even HOA presidents. From nearby towns, curious about the drama. I took the stand, my suit pressed, my badge gleaming. I told the judge everything. Mia's condition, the ventilator's necessity, Karen's months of harassment. My voice broke as I described that night, the panic, the manual pump, Mia's blue lips. She's my everything, I said, my eyes wet. I thought I was going to lose her. The jury watched the video, saw the photos, heard from Mrs. Patel. And Mark, Karen's lawyer, tried to spin it. She thought it was a rule violation, not a crime, but it fell flat. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Verdict, guilty on all counts. The judge didn't hold back. You abused your position. And endangered a vulnerable child, he said, his voice heavy. Karen got 4 years to 4 endangerment, 2 for vandalism plus $25,000 in restitution, $10,000 for Mia's medical costs, $15,000 for the power damage. She was led away in cuffs, her head down, her reign over. Back home, Mia recovered slowly. The restitution covered a new backup unit, a top-of-the-line model that gave me peace of mind. I took her to therapy to process the trauma. She'd have nightmares, waking up gasping, and I'd hold her until she slept again. But she was healing, her smile returning. Cedar Ridge changed too. The HOA rewrote its rules: no more petty fines, no more tyranny. Neighbors rallied around us, bringing Mia flowers, books, a handmade quilt from Mrs. Patel, the Wilson's son. Jake started visiting again, reading comics with her. One evening, we sat on the porch, the sunset painting the sky orange. Mia typed on her tablet, "Love you, Daddy." I hugged her tight, my eyes wet. "Love you too, Princess." The ramp stayed still blue, a symbol of Mia's strength. Cedar Ridge wasn't perfect, but it was brighter now. People waved as they passed, the air lighter, the fear gone. Mia's laughter filled the house again, and I could breathe easier, knowing she was safe. We'd face the darkness and come out stronger, together.